All I can say, you sure know how to make a guy feel at home.
It is Eli's Cheesecake and Gino's Pizza all around as we have a new mayor-elect of the city of Chicago.
A decisive victory for Rahm Emanuel. Top Line begins right now.
Hello and welcome to ABC News Top Line. I'm Rick Klein.
And I'm Jonathan Karl.
Every day at noon Eastern, we're right here with the latest in politics. It's twitter.com/Rick Klein, twitter.com/John Karl. There's no place like the home of the Top Line set. And with that in mind, what's got your eye today?
Well, it's right there. Mayor Emanuel. He still doesn't have the @Mayor Emanuel Twitter feed yet. Still a fun one to watch, though. But Rahm Emanuel cruises to an easy victory, avoids a runoff. It's just, I mean, just take a step back. It's an amazing story.
Yeah.
This is the president's chief of staff just a few months ago, and now he is on the road to being mayor of Chicago.
Rahm and a romp, indeed. It's incredible. You look at how high octane this guy has kept a pace over the last 2 decades, going from Capitol Hill aide to a White House aide under Bill Clinton, then serving in Congress, a top leadership post, then to become
making a lot of money, by the way, in the middle there.
Oh yeah, by the way, becomes a millionaire in between, and able to make this jump back and forth to elected office and to appointed office. Next up today, it is mild Mitch. Indiana Governor Mitch Daniels is not doing the Scott Walker thing. Scott Walker has something of a recording out that you got to check out online. But in the meantime, Democrats in the state of Indiana have fled to avoid the budget cuts that Mitch Daniels is putting forward. Actually, though, Governor Daniels is defending them, and he's not sending the state police out to bring them home. It's an interesting twist in the emerging presidential field to see a presidential prospect like Mitch Daniels not be combative with the Democrats in his state.
Yeah, and what Daniels is saying is focus on the fiscal issue here. He's got, dealing with budget issues, certainly in Indiana, very proud of what he's done there, but he's saying now is not the time to pick other fights over the natures of public employee unions, for example. Next up, Newt's rebuke. A college Democrat asked Newt Gingrich some pointed questions about his personal life, including about that affair he had with his now third wife while he was married to wife number 2. This was a very pointed question, very aggressive question at an event he had yesterday. But Newt seemed to have thought about this and had what I imagine will be his stock answer. He said, check this out, if the primary concern of the American people is my past, my candidacy would be irrelevant. So apparently an acknowledgement that Newt does have a little baggage.
It does have some baggage. It's interesting because he is a candidate that needs you to look past to the 1990s at least in order to look forward. This is going to be something that trails him, but as you say, it looked like he had an answer ready for this one. And finally today, call it the anti-stimulus. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid is taking on the world's oldest profession. He's calling on his home state of Nevada to outlaw prostitution. He did this in his biannual address to the Nevada State Legislature, and there was utter silence. There isn't even a bill filed in Nevada to outlaw prostitution. Of course, it's legal in many counties in his home state, something he knows about all too well, and this has just gone over like a lead balloon. Obviously, you're not going to get critique from too many Republicans, but it's also an issue that doesn't seem to be going very far in his own state.
I mean, what's he going to do next? Outlaw gambling? I mean, this is... I don't know what to make of it.
Indeed. Well, we begin today's program with one of the most prominent voices on education issues in this country. Randi Weingarten of the American Federation of Teachers joins us here on Top Line. And I want to ask you, it feels like we've got so many states that are gunning for teachers' unions these days. What is behind this, and what is the response from the union perspective to what's going on in so many states across the Midwest?
Well, thanks, guys. Look, there's 2 reasons why this is happening. Number one, because of the budget crisis, and you have a bunch of governors who would rather figure point than solve problems. But the other underlying reason is that finally people get that we have to change our schools from the industrial model that we've been in for 100 years to a knowledge model, because we have to help all kids, not just some kids, become the problem solvers and the creative thinkers of tomorrow. So you have these 2 things colliding at a time when we need more resources, frankly, better spent than we've spent them before. We have less, and we need them to help all kids become knowledge knowers. So it's easy to try to blame somebody else, and the blame of the unions are because we are the voice of teachers. And ultimately, every teacher I know wants to have a voice at work. They need a voice at work. They need to have the authority and the autonomy in their classroom. We have to make sure that they're doing a good job at what they're doing, but they need that autonomy and they need those resources.
Now, one of the things Walker's trying to do is to say that union dues should not be taken automatically out of a teacher's paycheck and go to the to the union leadership. That the union should go directly to the teachers themselves and collect the dues, and effectively the government shouldn't be doing that for them. What's wrong with that?
You know something, what Walker is trying to do is he's essentially saying that public workers, teachers, nurses, firefighters, who didn't cause this budget crisis, Wall Street did, some of his friends did, others did, but they didn't cause it, they should be blamed for it. And at the end of the day, what union dues are, what teacher dues are, and firefighters the same like, what they do is they help us help represent folk. So frankly, in my union, a lot of the dues that people pay help to go for professional development that we do to help prepare teachers. They go for representation. They go for fighting for lower class size and those kinds of things. So what the governor wants is he wants to take away people's voice, and he doesn't want anybody to be able to mount a case to defend against that.
But couldn't you argue what he's really trying to do is give a teacher a right to decide whether or not to pay those dues and make an independent decision on that?
Ultimately, teachers have the absolute right on a political process to decide if they want to be involved or not. What we're trying to do in terms of the dues, it's about representing folk. It's how we end up having funding available so that we can fight for fair contracts and things like that. What he's really trying to do is wipe out people's voice. That's what he's trying to do.
As you know,
and
it's
at
not
the end of the day, it's just like the budget. This is not a budget fight. He's just trying to stick it to middle-class workers. You know, today, for example, he is potentially forfeiting about $40–50 million of federal funds because of what he's doing here.
I want to ask you broader than just Wisconsin. As you know, there's many states that are dealing with these fiscal challenges, many of them targeting teachers. Take a look at something that Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey said just the other day here in Washington.
Where else in America? Really, there's two places left in America where there's a profession where there is no reward for excellence and no consequence for failure. Of course, we all know the first one is weathermen. Unfortunately, the second one is teaching.
And Randy, as you know, there's a widespread public perception because of tenure, because of pensions, that teachers have a pretty cushy deal. What are teachers doing to try to turn those perceptions around? And what do you say to critics like Governor Christie?
Well, look, let me start here. Number one, there is not an epidemic of bad teachers. Frankly, most people go into teaching not because anybody wants to get rich on it, but because they want to make a difference in the lives of kids. And that's why people go into teaching. And that's why they want to go into teaching. And ultimately, what we're trying to do about this is we've looked ourselves in the mirror and say, instead of saying to management, you better be better at recruiting, retaining, supporting teachers, and even disciplining teachers, we want to take a piece of this. We want to step up and take responsibility. And so my union has been focused on evaluation processes. How do we make the evaluation process one for continuous improvement for teachers and for students? And if people can't do their job, how do we support them? And if they can't, how do we find a way to, in a dignified way, get them out of the profession? So the bottom line is we've been at this for a couple of years now. In fact, when I was in New York, I said in mid-2000, 2004, I said to Mayor Bloomberg, Chancellor Klein, let us police our own profession. We're fed up with the way you guys do it. But ultimately, instead of working with us, you know, Governor Christie would rather demonize us. And that's just wrong in terms of teachers. We need the public support. Ultimately, we have to be better at what we do. So do parents, so do kids, because we have to help make sure we help all kids succeed in the knowledge economy.
But you have defended the idea of the last hired, the first fired. Basically, the decisions are made based on seniority. I mean, it's hard, I think, for a lot of people in the private sector to understand, you know, to Christie's point, how performance does not weigh into these factors. You know, is not the driving factor in these decisions.
But of course performance, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Look, it's so frustrating because of course performance is the driving factor. What happens is, the reason that we're actually focused on evaluations is because evaluation has always been, the way evaluations have been done, has always been the prerogative of management. And what we've seen, and frankly, I was one of these, I was a classroom teacher, I used to have what you call a drive-by evaluation, meaning my principal, who actually was really good, guy who I had when I was teaching at Clara Barton High School in Brooklyn. He's a great evaluator, but he came into my class for 20 minutes, and that was my evaluation for the whole year. Now that's ridiculous. So what we're trying to do is say, let's look at teacher performance differently. Let's make sure we have a robust, meaningful evaluation of teachers. Now, and all these folks who are talking about last in, first out, what they're doing is they're averting the topic, which is how are we cutting so much money from schools? So last thing I'll say is this. Let's work on an evaluation system, then do the other stuff.
Randi Weingarten, American Federation of Teachers, thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate it. This debate goes on.